Hello and welcome, my friends, to another episode of Talk Power BI. This is a special episode. We're talking about something important. Hello and welcome, my friends, to another episode. Maybe more important than Power BI. I don't know. I'll let you decide. Today the topic is the hard work myth. But first, I want to do a shout out to everybody who's on. And thank you so much for joining. I love seeing the usual suspects, if you will, right? The folks who hang out with me almost every Friday. Of course, Steve is here, our moderator. He'll be keeping an eye on the chat. He'll also be helping me with the Q&A, pick up your questions. So we would stay on for the Power BI Q&A, but I'm going to kick it off with this short topic, if that's okay with you guys. John Milson says, hello from Idaho. Loretta Sue is here from Tampa, Florida. Good to see you here, Loretta Sue. Kimberly Forrest says, hello from frigid Wisconsin. No. Oh, I got my heater running. Let me just turn that off. I'm in Seattle. It's not frigid. It's nice. We still turn the heater on. Who else we got? We got Jen Nabel, of course, from Chicago. Andy says, hello from Somerset. If you are joining from somewhere else, let me know. And we do have quite a few folks on the phone. So we have Chris, Hans, Rick, Steve, and Sean, and they are part of our Learn Power BI family. Let's dive into it. I'll come back and do some other shout outs to and hellos, but let's dive in. So first of all, where did we first learn this, right? I mean, where did we get this idea of get this equation in our head to begin with? And I really feel that it's dads who are to blame, at least in my case. So I grew up in Delhi, and Delhi has always had lots of traffic. Even when I was growing up, my dad had a long commute. It could be an hour, 2 hour long, both ways, right? So he spent a long day, and of course then he was at work. So it was a long day, and it was used to be a 6-day work week. In a lot of places, surprisingly in India, it still is. Not everywhere. A lot of the modern companies, a lot of the American companies, of course, or international companies that are there, they have 5-day work week. But my dad had a 6-day work week. That means he was working Monday through Saturday. And on Sundays, he would take us out. He would take us to visit family, other places. But now when I look back, I kind of realize how exhausted he must have been, because when we did not go anywhere, he pretty much slept through the whole Sunday. So that's what I saw. He actually never talked to me about this. My dad is a man of few words. Well, actually, he speaks. We have more conversation now. But certainly growing up, he was a man of few words. But I just saw it. And I saw him doing this day in and day out. He used to travel as well, and he would get up at 4 a.m. And head out and catch a flight or catch a train to go somewhere. So that's just what I grew up with, and somehow absorbed that, somehow learned, picked up that lesson, or understood that hey, that's how you need to be. Speaking of dads, though, we took a family trip once. We went to Kashmir. Now that's a beautiful place. In our literature, it's described as paradise on earth, heaven on earth, and it's pretty darn close. It's gorgeous. It's stunningly gorgeous. So I feel lucky to have been there as a kid with my family, and it was a great experience. Now there were two mountains that we went there. Two key ones that I remember. So there was one Gulmarg and Sonmarg. Right, so Gulmarg and Sonmarg, those were those two places we went, and it's a long hike up. But in the first place, I think it was Gulmarg, we took horses. So we rented horses, and that just made the whole ride easier. We just got up on the horse. Of course, as a kid, that was super exciting, even though a little bit scary as they go across those mountain paths. But so we trekked up on the horses, and it was super easy. Now the next place, my dad made us an offer. He said, we could rent horses and you could go that way. Or if you walk up yourselves, then you're going to get unlimited apple juice. Now, Kashmir is also known for its apples, and we had apple juice there, and it's like fresh. It's awesome. Of course, as kids, we loved it. I think I would still love it. So, man, that was a tough choice for us. Now, I don't really know what my dad's goal was behind this. Maybe Maybe, he wanted to save money. I think unlimited apple juice would still cost less than renting horses. Or maybe he just wanted us to get some physical exercise, to just climb up a hill. Or maybe he loved playing mind games with kids, because clearly, in hindsight, that was not a great offer. For the long trek that we ended up doing, apple juice. How much apple juice are we gonna drink, right? So that was that. But yeah, we took the deal. So we took the deal, and we climbed up, and of course we were kids. So as we're climbing up, we would scamper up like a hill. We would trek up a hill, and we would be convinced that that's the top. There can be nothing beyond it, because we didn't see anything beyond it. It was just the hill we saw, and like that, and then there was a sky. But we would climb up on a hill, and boy, of course, there would be another hill after that. And this kept going on and on and on. And yeah, we did make it to the kind of the spot, but it was much longer than we thought, and we went kind of this hill after hill after hill. Now, what I maybe didn't realize then was that maybe my dad's goal was not any of these, A, B, or C. Maybe it was D, which was to teach us a life lesson. Because isn't that how life works? The goalpost always moves. You look at hill and you're like, yeah, that's it. That's all I want. But then you get there, and then there is another hill for us. And I think that's just humans, and that's beautiful, right? That's what gotten us to Moon and Mars, and will take us beyond that, right? But we should understand that, right? When I look back at my life, and I'm sure when you would look back at your life, there were so many of these goalposts that we created, right? So many times when he said, oh, if just happens, and that's it, right? All the way back to the school when I was like, oh man, if I just clear this exam and do well in this, that's it. That's all I need ever. Oh my gosh, that's it, right? And so that was the only goalpost we saw. And of course, it was then, kind of graduating from that, getting to college, getting your first job, girlfriend, marriage, the girl you wanted, the love of your life, right? And at every point, that's the only hill you saw. And after that, it was just blue skies after that, right? But you climbed up on that, and maybe you enjoyed yourself for a minute or two, or sometimes like, oh yeah, this is so awesome, I did it. But then you're like, what about that next hill, and the next hill, and the next hill? So maybe that's what my dad was trying to teach us on that hike. Hey, Luz. Luz says hi from Atlanta. So, my friend, if we do know that, and I don't know if we do, for me, it took me a bit of time to realize that, like, oh, yeah, we keep doing that. That's how we live life. And I don't think that's going to change, because, again, that's part of us being human, right? We are like that, and that's great. That's awesome thing. But we live this deferred life plan, right? We have this equation in our head. When this, then that. Oh, when I get my job, then this is going to happen. When I do this, when I get the promotion, then this is going to happen. And we keep doing it. And, we don't just do it for the obvious stuff, right? So, when I become a vice president in the company, that's when I'll be successful. That's when I'll be somebody. We make it even bigger than that. When that happens, then I'll be happy. When that happens, then I would be worthy. When that happens, then I would be enough. When that happens, that's when people would love me. That's when I would be lovable. And I don't know why we do that. It's just silly. What if we were successful right now? The goalpost is going to move. You know that, right? So what's the point of saying, when that happens, then I'm successful? What if we were filled with love right now? What if we were filled with peace and happiness right now? What if we were freaking enough right freaking now? Not in some distant future, not at some elusive goalpost. Like, when that happens, then I'm going to be something. Right? So not just the tangible stuff, right? Like, oh yeah, when I get to vice president, I'll be successful. We load this up, and sometimes we do. I think often we do it unconsciously. We don't think about it, right? And the odd thing is that I have met and talked with a lot of entrepreneurs, some who have attained amazing success, right? And I'll put success in quotes. Somebody asked a great question when I asked the question, like, hey, what does hard work lead to success? And they said, hey, well, how do you define success? But let's even stay with the convention sense. And when so these entrepreneurs that I talked to, and when they became successful, when they really hit pay dirt, if you will, right? I mean, like, boy, I mean, I made millions of dollars this year. They went into depression afterwards, right after that, because they realized that all the things they had associated with that, none of that happen. It was the same, right? I mean, the love, peace, happiness, or everything that you thought would wait for you at that goalpost, it's nothing to do with that goalpost. So my friend, this whole hard work thing, for now, let's just even put aside that whole success and the goalpost, because who cares? I mean, that thing is elusive anyway. That stuff, we keep moving it anyway, and that's human. We're not going to change that way. I really think it's about how you live right now. And the way you believe it, that's how you would shape your life right now. And whatever your life is right now, believe me, that's how your life will be in the future. You know, if you just think that magically something is going to change, switch later, just because you have money, just because you got the promotion, it's not going to happen. Because we live our lives based on beliefs, not really our external circumstances. So if you do go in life thinking that hard work gets me somewhere, right? So you have it in your mind, I'm like, hard work gets me there, hard work gets me there, and it's just in you. And you set your first goalpost. You say, okay, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get to X amount of money, or I'm gonna get to this position, get this job, or anything, right? And you do that. Now you're gonna approach it by working hard, because that's what you believe in. And it may get you there. It may get you there. But the key question is that how would you live through that process? If you believe it takes hard work, and let's say your goal is slipping, like, oh, a year went by and you didn't get that promotion, what are you going to do? Well, you think hard work is the key. So you're going to pour yourself in, right? But what we forget is, why are we working hard? And often when I talk to people, it's like, okay, you want to make more money, whatever, get to this position, do this. But then what? They talk about the bigger things. They talk about the things that really are meaningful. And they talk about, oh, I want to spend more time with my family. I want to have more freedom. I want to have control over my life. I want to travel more, right? So my brother said it best. He said, Avi, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to regret not attending that 2:30 meeting. Like, oh, damn it, I should have attended that. And he didn't have to say what I'm going to be thinking about at my deathbed, right? So that's the important stuff. But when you pour yourself in, right, when you say hard work is going to get me to that goalpost, and then when this, then that, right, that deferred life plan, then I'm going to spend time with family, then I'm going to travel with my family, then I'm going to see the world, all of these things, that is exactly what you're going to take away. So you're going to say, sorry, honey, I'm going to be late for dinner tonight, right? I'm going to be working this weekend, right? You're going to miss, I don't know, your kids' recital, the birthdays, events, because you think you need to do that now to get to that point later. Now, what if we didn't think that way, right? So what if we didn't have that equation in our head? Well, I just think, so I just want to open that door a crack for you, because believe me, I'm in the same spot. I'm still struggling with these. I'm trying to make sense of these things as well. So we can do this together. So I think if you do scratch that equation from your head, I don't really know the answer, right? But what I know is that it opens the door for something else, right? So now if you do not have that equation that by working hard, I'll get there, you don't have that in your head. And then let's say you get a setback. You don't get promoted, you don't earn as much money, whatever. then your automatic reaction is not going to be, oh, I'm gonna work like not 60 but 80 hours a week now. Just gotta bore myself in, right? I mean, 60 hours didn't do it, 80 hours got to do it. You're not going to do that, right? Maybe you'll do something else. You'll say, well, what about this? What about that, right? I mean, just maybe you'll think differently. There'll be room for more, which will eventually maybe better to lead you to that success, that goalpost. But again, it's not about that. It's about how you get there, right? So you're not going to be sacrificing stuff that you want just to get to that goalpost. So often, the last time when I had this conversation, the thing that came up was, oh yeah, working hard enough. No, work smart. And so again, that's another one of those things which, like, where the heck did we get that? Like, who was the first person who told that to me? And work smart. And yeah, the same thing was hard work is success. You go on YouTube, I actually did, and you search for hard work success. Just those words, that's it, nothing else. And there's a list of these really famous and successful people. They're all talking about hard work, success, hard work, success, hard work, success. Can they all be wrong? I don't know. We talked about that, right? So, but let's move on to work smart. So somewhere we got this. Somewhere we did. I'm not sure where. Let's see what's coming next. Right? But, so I had to think about this one. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know. Do I believe in it? Do I not believe in it? Well, so I'll share with you what I feel about this. When I think about working smart, it's so tied to me, that smart word. I can't help but apply it to myself, right? So my work, often we kind of wear that guise anyway, like we are what we do. Now, that is not true, but we often do that. And I know I did that for a long time, maybe still do to some extent, right? So I know when I was working full-time, my standard introduction was, hey, I'm Avi Singh, business analyst in Microsoft, right? I mean, it becomes your identity. So we're so tied with that identity. So when we talk about this concept of working smart, inevitably we apply it to ourselves. Now, what does that mean? That means that I need to be smart. That, to me, some part of that, I think, some part of me gets the message that means I'm not smart right now, or not smart enough. And I don't know, I just don't want to live like that, right? So I talked about feeling enough, feeling loved, happy, peaceful, successful right now. So yeah, I reject that too. That smart word, because to me, I don't want to feel that way, that I'm not smart enough. I want to feel that I am enough. I am 100% enough all the time, every time, everywhere. Now, this concept, though, I am enough, I didn't come up with it. This comes actually, I got this from another amazing channel, Mind Valley. I would highly recommend you check them out. So there they talked about this concept of I'm enough. And it was a really funny experiment. And it's this thing they do with lipstick. And the speaker was talking about how she gave her first client a lipstick and asked her to write it on the mirror in big bold letters, I'm enough, in all the mirrors in the house, so you see it every day. Now, I haven't done that. Maybe I should, right? But yeah, the feeling of I'm enough. Now, it was interesting that there was a question in the audience, and what they asked was, well, hey, I mean, what you're saying is, you're telling me to always feel like I'm enough, but if I'm enough, then man, I'm just gonna sit on my couch and do nothing. Like I'm enough. I'm perfect. I don't need to do anything. And they had a beautiful answer to that. And they said that's actually the opposite of what's true. You do that, you give up, sit on the couch, do nothing, when you feel you're not enough, right? Because then it's hard for us to rise up to our challenges, to dream big, go after our dreams. When you do think you're enough, you're not going to sit on the couch. You're going to put yourself out there. you're going to do the craziest things. You're going to pursue the craziest dreams. Others might tell you, Avi, that's insane. You're never going to be able to do it. But you're going to do it anyway. Because you're going to know you're enough. And if you fail, you're going to say, hey, I know I'm enough. All the place, all the time. It couldn't be me. It can't be me. So it must be something that I did. Something that my approach was. Maybe I didn't use the right technique, right approach. Let me do it again. Let me try it again. Because I'm enough. That's when you don't give up. That's when you... That's when you fight the hardest for your life. When you feel you're enough. All right. So that leaves us, we scratched out hard, work hard, we scratched out work smart. What about work? Words carry a lot of weight because the words that we think are the words that we use, the words that we speak, and they create a reality. Now, I don't know about you, but again, we somehow absorb this stuff from our lives, and work doesn't have any positive connotation. And I'm sure you can think of a lot of phrases where, you talk about this and Monday blues and all that sort of stuff, right? Why the heck? Why should there be any blue on Monday, right? Why do we even talk about that? But, it's part of a culture because, oh gosh, we have to drag ourselves back to work. Why is TGIF? What the heck? What is that about? Thank God it's Friday. Why is Friday any special? Right? So work has this baggage associated with it, and I don't want that. I don't want to deal with that baggage. So one of my favorite heroes in Bollywood, Shah Rukh Khan. He's actually had he has a TED talk as well and there he talked about. I think he opened with that. He said, I've never worked a day in my life. And if I were to choose, that's the life I want. I don't ever want it to be work. I never want to work a day in my life because, it's not work. Again, I mean, you can say, oh, it's just a word. You're doing the same thing. I mean, you get up and turn on your computer and check your email. We all do that. Just because you don't call it work doesn't going to change anything, Avi, right? But yeah, I believe it does change things. I believe it does impact how you think, how you live. So that's it, my friends. We'll get back to the regular programming, and I'm not really sure what you guys thought about that. But I'll share one kind of last story, which I did send an email. But why the heck did I feel compelled to talk about this? It's certainly not Power BI, so it's not. It doesn't fit into Talk Power BI as such, but I felt like I had to talk about this because so we've been going through the application process for our 6 figures Power BI professional, and actually quite a few members who are on the call today have already joined, so a big warm welcome to them. But I noticed two themes in every call that I did for all these amazing applicants to this program. One was they all talked about their own goals, but there was always woven in there somewhere was the part about helping others. And I love that. I'm like, oh, great. That's the kind of people I want to work with. That's the kind of people I want to gather around me. But the other part was slightly disturbing to me because they all talked about, not all, but a lot of them talked about this notion that, oh yeah, Avi, so we're committing to this program, and that's going to mean that we're going to be working long hours, late nights, and time away from family. And my friends, that's not what I've created for myself, and I wouldn't want to create that for anybody else. I just don't believe in that. All right, cool. So let's Power BI questions. Anyone? Let me check in. Let me see how you guys are doing. All right, okay. So folks are online. I wasn't sure. I'm like, oh gosh, is anybody gonna watch this? Let's see. Work smarter, not harder. Ooh, okay, yeah, I knew I was gonna get that. Like, work smarter, not harder. I don't know, right? So you heard me talk about that. What it was weighing on you, we're here to help lifting. No, man, I feel light as air. I mean, I know I got emotional, but I feel so powerful, so top of the world. Ying Lex says hello from Thailand. Hello, my friends. So we are now in our Q&A mode. Rick was there earlier. He said hi from Netherlands. Cool. Let me do this. Let me keep that up, and I'm gonna bring up our Q&A. What else? I felt like. Yeah. So I'll share another quick story while we're kind of. And Gian Pietro says hello from Italy. Hello, my friend. So yeah, nothing. Yeah, Hans. So guys. There was a time when I was doing my dream job, and I was like clinically depressed. I mean, I was seeing a therapist. I was in a bad place, and what I say is, if your job sucks and you're not happy, that's great. That's great, because you know exactly what you need to do. You just need to switch the job. But if you were doing your dream job and your life sucks, then you're screwed, you know, because what's the way out? And that's where I found myself when I left Microsoft, and I was in a bad place, and I realized why. Because I wasn't being true to myself. I left Microsoft with the goal to help others, but there was one deeper layer that I needed to go to, which was, why did I want to help others? So at that time, I was doing kind of consulting and training, and there was it was good, but you know the touch point was really brief. I would go to these famous company. Gosh, I stacked on a whole long list of impressive names: NASA, NBC Universal, da. But it was very brief contact. Now I later realized that I left my job in Microsoft because I wanted to help others, but the reason why I wanted to help others was because I wanted to connect with them and connect them. And that's what was not happening because my touch point was so brief. So yeah, right now, and again, I mean, I do get emotional at times, but that's because, yeah, I mean, this stuff is, I don't know, powerful, but, and I think there's nothing wrong with getting emotional, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I feel awesome. I don't know, I feel full. That's the best way to say it. Awesome. Sam is here. Rochelle says hi from Overland Park. Got it. So I got all of those. Let me check in with the folks on the phone. Chris, Steve, hanging out with me. Thank you. If you had anything you wanted to bring up on Power BI or something else, we'd love to talk to you. Otherwise, folks, if you have any questions on YouTube, let me know. We'll wait for that.
Hey, Avi, it's Steve.
Hey, Steve. How's it going?
This isn't really Power BI related, but it's just on the topic of defining success.
Yeah.
I've read several books by John Wooden, the legendary UCLA coach.
Boy, I haven't. Yeah, tell me more.
And he's very his work is really interesting, and how he defines success. I did do a little cut and paste and put it in the chat, but you know, for him, you know, it's just really, just doing the best that you're capable of doing, and that's it. You know, just don't worry about what others think of you. Just think about,
yeah,
you know, are you putting forth the effort to do the best that you're capable of?
Yeah.
And that's it.
You know, I love that. And of course, so with my YouTube, and especially with this live and stuff, you do put yourself out there. And I was really afraid of the feedback that I would get, of being judged. But my coach helped us all with that. So I'm part of this entrepreneurs program. And what he said was that people are going to judge you anyway, you know? So wouldn't you rather be judged for doing what you really believe in, right? So yeah, I mean, it's and I know it's not always kind of easy when you hear something on data, but yeah, I think we should rather just do what we believe in and be judged for that, because yeah, that's gonna happen anyway. But hey, it's a John Wooden, is it? I'm gonna write that down. I feel like I'm gonna like reading his stuff.
Yeah, you're probably just a little too young, but you know, he's He's like the greatest coach of all time.
Okay. I can't. Definitely sounds like a guy I want to know more about. So yeah, I'll go read up on that. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so hey, let's do this. You guys are awfully quiet on YouTube. Come on, give me something. Give me like a DAX question. Uh, uh, Maybe I'll throw a puzzle at you guys
Well,
if you want. Steve, do you
Avi,
have something here?
I've got something that was an extension of what we talked about last week, which was when you did the distinct count and with some X. I don't know if you remember
I
that.
remember that. You had the summarize approach, and then we did another one. Yeah, I remember that from last week. Yeah.
So I was playing around a little bit with that, and something that had been discussed in the course, but maybe just doesn't really, the light bulb really doesn't go off until you see it in your own.
Yeah, that happens.
Your own data.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, what would happen if I just use an expression in place of the distinct count measure? Use the same formula or the same code, but not in a measure, in a
like a calculated column? I don't
No, in a within distinct count rather than having within the sum X. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm trying to recall it.
Yeah. So hold on.
What it boiled down to was context transition. It wasn't using the same code. It didn't work because it wasn't wrapped in a calculate, basically. And it was interesting to see in a small model with a small calendar table it helps understand what's happening if you just let these things sort of stand alone.
Yeah, let me bring it up and give others some context, and then let's see what we can figure out.
I do have I don't know if I can share my screen or not if you'd want to see it. But I could
if you have something prepped, we'll do that. So folks, thanks. I see your questions on YouTube, so we'll kind of alternate. That's how we roll over here. We're gonna take one from the students on the phone, and then we're gonna take one from the YouTube chat, and later we'll open the phone lines for YouTube. Open the phone lines for YouTube. And when I say phone lines, it's not actually phone. It's a web conference. So you can also share your screen and show us stuff later on. So this is later. All right. So Steve, let's have you share your screen.
All right. Okay. Let's see what happens here.
Okay.
All right, can you see the Excel file?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, I'm looking at myself. That's always.
Yeah, maybe it's the wrong screen. I got two monitors here.
Okay, yeah, turn it off or on again. Okay, great.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, hang on. All right, off. All right, now on. Okay, yeah, I clicked the wrong.
No worries. All right, so we're looking at unique count.
So you can see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me get this. So, it's just the same process for, but where it got interesting was over here with the count using some X with measure. That's what you had set up. So then, and let's see if I can get my. I don't need that. I need the measures.
Click on the.
Yeah. I'm in the wrong. I want to get the measures up there, or the pivot table stuff here. Let's see.
Yeah, I think you right click and say pivot table.
Yeah. It's off my screen here a little bit. I got too many columns here. Oh, wait a minute. All right, so I click in here. There we go. So when you use this.
Okay. SumX. Got it.
See, that's not in a measure.
Hold on. I wanted to get that screenshot. Okay, so count X using SumX with expressions. So you're saying SumX over calendar, distinct count, sample track code. Yeah, that's that's a bit of a mind bender. I mean, it's simple, but you have to think through every step. Okay,
well,
got it.
But here what's interesting. So you see the
total
in the total column.
Yeah, is that
it's
surprising?
It's 2190.
Yeah. Ooh.
Now why is that?
Gosh, let's see if we can figure it out. Man, I love this kind of stuff. So, folks, I've talked about it in the class. Often when something doesn't work, and I'm working with my students or my clients or in a room with other people, and they start throwing like darts at it. Okay, what if we did this? What if we did that? And I don't usually approach that way. I'm like, no. I first want to understand why it didn't work. Then I want to solve it. So this one is fun. Hey Steve, let me request keyboard and mouse control. I'm not really sure why I would need it, but we'll see. So let me see if I can kind of walk through that in my head. So first of all, I would assume that this has the standard AdventureWorks model. Is that what we use?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. Got it.
The data it's right there for you to see right in the sheet.
Got it. But there's a calendar table too, right? So let's just
yeah. There's a calendar table and a very small
data
set of records that you can see. You don't have to go into the query editor or anything. It's right there.
Got it. But,
so
but still, so I'll again kind of do it step by step, just so I'm going through that process. Hopefully others can learn from that. And no guarantees on if I'll get any results though, but I'll definitely share my approach. So always first thing I look at the diagram, and I'm taking a screenshot of this right now, and I'll just stick it off to the side. And that kind of grounds me. And even for a simple model, I still want to kind of keep that in my head. So great. So now let's go in there and let's see which one is this measure. Can you bring up the definition for that for me?
Yeah. All right. Well, first let me show you this
expression. Yeah.
All right. You see this one where we've got a measure count, distinct count.
Yeah. Got it.
All right.
Yeah.
Then which is defined as just notice that this code right here that defines this measure is exactly what is in
I see what you're saying. So let me
SumX with expression. If you look at that, it's that part of it is the same, exactly the same.
I think I might be getting it. Let's see. So let's walk through step by step again. So count, distinct count. You showed me the first one. Then show me the next one, the count with measure, I think.
Okay. All right. So we've defined distinct count. That measure's been defined.
Yeah.
Then we have used.
Got it. In that
with SumX, and that's this one. That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Got it. So minor stuff, but it's funny. So it's correct for us. DAX is always correct. I mean, yeah, sure, there might be like
but I mean, it adds up.
Right, so yeah. So 2190, I mean, DAX is right.
Not the 2190. Yeah, DAX is right.
Yeah, right, but yeah, it's not correct by us. So
I mean, it doesn't add up
so I got
the way what we're expecting.
Got it. Yeah. So I got count, distinct count, and then count. We use that in a SumX, and then we use the same thing, but not with a measure. So I'm gonna put this on the screen on YouTube, and so you see what Steve is talking about. So he used the count distinct count. That's simple. Distinct count of his data table. Again, remember, keep in mind the table that we had. The sample data as a data table, calendar as a lookup table. So we start with that, and that gives us this results 3246, right? So and the total we wanted to change, we wanted to add up individually. So then that's change that to, well, no, we don't want like the overall distinct count. We want you to go kind of date by date. So that's what he says. Sum X calendar, go by every date, count distinct count, add those up, so that we get 3249. Oh, actually this one, sum X with measure. But then this one is different. So if we go back here, this looks the same because essentially, instead of this measure, which is defined as distinct count sample track code, so if we stick that in there, it doesn't seem to work, not at the total level. Let me get it back there. So 2190, that's where it's failing. Now we do know that what is the distinction between using a measure versus not. So when we use a measure, there is a calculate implied around that. So there is a calculate, it is implied.
Right.
So, and what that does, amongst other things, I mean, calculate is like the magic one, right? But that does transition a row filter to a filter context. That's one of the magical powers of calculate. Cool. So let's see.
So yeah, so the 2190. I mean, so how do you get 2190? Where's that number come from?
Yeah. Hold on. Let's see if we can do something here.
I know where it comes from, but it's
well, actually, where do you think 2190 is coming from? What is that? What is that number?
All right. Well, you see this little 2190, 365, and 6?
Yeah.
There's 365 days in the calendar table.
Yeah.
And there's 6 values that's happening 365 times, because it's just.
All right. Okay. Good.
So we have a clue. That number will vary depending upon how many days are in the calendar table.
Yeah. Got it. So we have a clue. So, man, I mean, in a lot of conversations, I don't know the first time I came up with this, but I feel like a lot of times Power BI is like a whodunit murder mystery, you know? And it's like, and the fun part is that sometimes there's that guy leaning over the dead body with a knife in hand, but he's not the murderer, you know? So you're like, oh yeah, I think this is happening. But, you know, so I love those kind of whodunits. So let's see if we can,
so what I think this is the 6 unique values that are in this data. Which are and it's summing 1 for every day in the calendar table.
Yeah, got it. So let me put some pictures up here. Let's do that, and get the last one I want is this image. Okay, got it. And I can do it here, paste it here, and I want to move this one over. Okay.
So if you went to the query editor and changed the number of days in the calendar table,
or selected a different year or time period, like what happens in there? I'm sure you have. Do you have does your calendar only have like, why is it showing only 3 days here? It's filtered somewhere, isn't it? Or that's all of your data?
No. That's all the data on the left-hand side.
Yeah, got it.
That's the data table.
And is your calendar table only 2019 right now?
I believe it's 365 days. Yes, I think
1 year.
so.
Okay, got it. All right. So let's let me line these two up, and we'll go through step by step.
But like if you started it at January 1st and ended it January 10th, that's 10 days. So it's going to be 60. That number will be 60 here instead of 2190.
Yeah, got it. So let's put this here. All right. So let's see. So let me see if I can make sense of it. So I'll think out loud. I don't know. I hope to get somewhere. But so the first one, let's look at the second one. I don't know which one is easier. Okay, let's start with the first one. We know that that's giving us the expected result. So for a few humans, we want it to say 9. We want it to go 3 plus 2 plus 4, 9. So if we look at the first one, so again, the way I read the x functions is that x comes first, and then I say, who do you iterate over? And then I say calendar, and then I say, what do you want me to do? And that is something, and then the sum part comes in the end. That's the way I read it. I really wish that you could write it that way. You can't, but let's see. So here we say sum x over. So let's look at. So again, when you're debugging measures, it's better to look at a single cell. So let's look at this cell right there. So here we say sum x calendar. So go row by row in calendar and give me the result of this measure. Got it. So let's do this. So row by row. Now the calendar does have 365 rows. What's the filter context coming into this? Actually, let's start here. What is the filter context for this cell? So filter context comes from usually rows, columns, slicers, other filters, sometimes in the visualization pane in Power BI. So what's the filter context coming in here? Steve, help me out.
Well, just the date.
Yeah, that's right. So calendar date is January 1, 2019.
Right.
Now this one is maybe slightly tricky. What about the grand
total?
Okay. What is the filter context for this cell, the grand total cell?
Well, the calendar is not filtered. It would be. I mean, it's essentially unfiltered.
Exactly. Yeah, there are no filters here. So again, so humans, I mean, we're sometimes like intuitive, and for us, it's like, oh, there's January 1, 2, and 3. No, not really, right? I mean, so yeah, there's no filters. So when SumX is stepping into calendar, how many rows does it have? In this case, how many rows does it have?
In this case, 365.
Absolutely right. So it has 365 rows, and it goes through that. And let's say, so there is January 1, 2019, January 2, 2019, and on and on and on until 12/31/2019, right? Now, for each one, it calculates this measure, count distinct, which is, where did I put it? I had it. I mean, it's a simple one. Well, it's a distinct count in the sample data. So let's just go with that, right? So, so it does count distinct, distinct count. So each one is doing that. Now the key is, we said we're in this cell right now, and there is no filter context, right? So when we try to evaluate this measure, is there a filter context then? When we step in to kind of calculate this measure?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because you've used a measure in the SumX.
Got it. And
the expression field of it.
And what does that do?
Well, that will, that triggers context transition. So it adds filters.
Yeah. So, and again, the way I think of it is that the calculate around it is implied. So normally,
well, I'll tell you what I did. I took it one step further. I put a calculate in the next measure,
and it worked.
It worked.
Exactly, right? So again, it's important to kind of understand it. So here, it's not just count distinct count. We're saying calculate count distinct count, and one of the things that calculate does is it takes the row context and changes it into filter context. So again, what was the filter context coming in? It was nothing. It was empty, right?
Right.
But there was a row context. How did we get the row context? Because normally measures do not have a row context. How did we end up with the row context?
using the X function.
Exactly. X are iterators. They go row by row. So they create a row context. So X function created a row context for us. And for that, like if we told X to go through calendar row by row. So that's the row context it created. So to say, hey, right now I'm at this row, calendar date equals January 1, 2019. So we had filter context was blank, row context was this, but then since we used a measure which has a calculate implied, it took this row context and changed it to a filter context. So now when we calculate count distinct count, we have the filter context or date 1/1/2009, and for that date, we'll get this answer, 3. Make sense? Right? So we're still calculating this number, but we're going row by row and all that. So answer we get is 3 in this case. So let's skip ahead. So January 2 and 3 would work. What happens in 12/31/2019? Let's see. What is the filter context? So frankly, any date beyond January 3rd. But what's the filter context? Is it still blank? So
well, you'd have a date, but you'd have no value. I mean, there's no.
Well, don't worry about that right now. So we are calculating this, and this one is a loop. It's stepping us through. The X function is stepping us through calendar row by calendar. And now we have reached the last row. In the sum X has reached the last row, which is 12/31/2019. It's like, whew, I'm almost done. And now I'm stepping into calculate. Right? So, and say X, go row by row. So that's what it's doing. And now it's the last row. And then we said for every row, do this. So at that step, what is the filter context coming into that step? Is it still blank? We did say it was blank over here. Well, it is still blank. Yeah, that part hasn't changed, right?
Blank. Oh, okay.
Right. All so that is still blank. The row context has something that has changed. So row context now is different. And now, of course, calculate takes that row context, changes that to filter context. So now we do end up, once we doing this measure, is calculate count distinct count with date 12/31/2019, and that's gonna give us blank essentially, right? Because there's no records for 12/31/2019, right? So this is the way this guy is working. All right. So again, I mean, I think you probably got it, but let's just do it step by step, just so hopefully folks who are following online can get it too. Is let's do the same thing for the other measure, and the only thing that's different is there we go. See. Now let's look at this one. And this one is saying I want to do distinct count, and this is not a measure of let me just say track code. All right, so we're gonna go step by step. Sum X with expression. So distinct count track code. Got it. So again, we're not worried about these ones. These ones are right. We're worried about this cell. So again, I'm thinking about this cell and this cell alone. So I'm in this cell. Now the filter context is again blank overall. Let me just put it up here. Filter context is blank coming in. But then I say sum X, go row by row in calendar. So it does that. So it comes to the first row, January 1, 2019, and I say for this row, I need to calculate distinct count track code. And what is my row context? It is calendar date 1/1/2009. What is my filter context in this case? As I'm stepping in, as X is stepping in and calculating this. Oh gosh, how do I don't know how to. Well, the filter context would remain blank because there is no calculate to transition the row context to filter context. So what would be the answer if there's no filter context and I ask distinct count track code? How many rows of data is it working on?
everyone in the calendar table.
Well, not just everyone in the calendar table, but every row in the sample data as well. There's just no filter context, right? So earlier we were filtering calendar, and that was propagating downhill to the track code, which is where we were actually doing our math. So yeah, so it is, and let's go back to your table. So I would bet that overall there are 6 unique track codes: AQU, FG, LRL.
Yes,
GG,
there are.
and SUN. Great, right? So it's operating on the complete data set. So it gets the answer 6. And this happens for every single row. Even December 31, it gets the same answer, because it comes in and it says, hey, coming in filter context is blank. My row context is now 1231, but there's no transition, so filter context stays blank. So now when it goes to like, oh, I gotta calculate the distinct count of sample track code, there are no filters at all, so it's operating on a complete table, so it gets the answer 6. So you see what happens. I mean, every single row it keeps getting the answer 6, and that's why in the end you get 365 times 6, right? So hopefully that made sense, right? So yeah, I mean, DAX is always right, but it helps for us to kind of understand it sometimes, so we can kind of twist its arm a little bit to get the answer that we're looking for. So yeah, so good experiment. I've seen you do this before. This is great. I mean, really kind of helps you look at the same thing kind of different ways and just understand. So, and of course, you try the next experiment where you wrapped a calculator around it, and what that did was it made these two kind of equivalent. It made let's see. It made kind of this formula equivalent to this one if you put a calculate on there, because again the calculate was implied here. We don't specify it, but whenever you use a measure, the calculate is implied. All right, hey, that was good stuff. Hopefully kind of stepping through kind of made sense, and if you saw my approach too, like I zero in on one cell, and then I just like break it down step by step. Like, okay, now we're iterating, we're going row by row. What's the filter context? What's the row context? Is there any transition? Let's break it down that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you for going through that.
All right.
Like I said, I kind of knew what was going on, but
yeah,
it helps me to sort of go through what's really happening when this, it iterates through a table, blah, 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 but to see it, it makes the point a little bit better.
And believe me, I have to kind of back up and do this a lot of times as well. lots of times when I write a measure and like with full confidence that's going to work, but it doesn't, and I'm like, oh gosh, right? And there's a moment of panic. And I remember my old days where I didn't realize that how simple these concepts are. And you've seen me kind of talk about this in the course. And row context is just the knowledge of the current row. Filter context is just just you applying kind of filters in Excel. It's nothing different than that, but you do have to break it down kind of step by step. So this was a simple example. You would write more complicated ones at times but the good news is that even to debug those and understand those, the process is the same. You kind of step back, go step by step, like, okay, what's happening at this step? What is the row context, filter context? So, yeah, I mean, I use it all the time.
I like the really simple ones where I can see the data, and if I'm doing the same thing on a huge data set, I can't follow it as well.
Oh, that's true. So, I mean, you've seen me. I like working with small data sets. Often when I'm writing a complex formula, I would filter everything down, maybe using slicers or something, or sometimes even in the query editor to like a really small population, which I can see on a screen, like 10 rows, and say, hey, does it work here? And then slowly expand it to a bigger set and see if it works. And usually if you do things right, then that's the best part. You can write something for 10 rows and that, hey, now I can pull in 10 million and
That's
it'll
right.
be fine, right? All right, cool. So folks,
All right.
if
Thanks.
you, yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks for that question. So folks, if you do want to know now, of course, there's a lot more inside my course, but there are materials on my YouTube channel as well. So if the row context, filter context, it's there's a simple concepts. Those are simple concepts. I never want you to think or believe otherwise. It scared it scared the bejesus out of me when I was starting out. When my measures wouldn't work, I would go into this total panic, like, oh my gosh, I have to look at this filter context, row context. There's something going on there. And I realized that it is just such basic concepts. Now, why is it challenging then? Because the ways in which they can be combined and impacted are a lot. I wouldn't say infinite, but yeah, there are lots of different ways that they can all kind of be impacted. But that's the only thing. So right, so you got to start off by thinking, believing, knowing that these concepts are inherently simple. They're like the most basic thing you can ever imagine. If you've ever gone to Excel and kind of filtered a set of rows, dude, that's filter context, right? So it's nothing more than that, right? So never, yeah, I mean, don't ever think like it's something really complicated or mystical. It's something really simple. And same with the row context. It's just the knowledge of the current row. It's like, do I know which street do I live on? Oh boy, that's the first time I've said it that way. I love it. That's it. If you know which street you live on, you know row context. So the concepts are simple, but they can be combined in different ways. So if you go to my channel, the good stuff is now at the top, thanks to Marianne and her team who organized this. And that stuff is easy to find. So DAX and filter context, all this stuff is there, and more inside my course. Cool. What else? So so that was a good. What do you think? That was pretty meaty, right? I love kind of this meaty stuff, and I love what I love even more. I mean, this one I kind of knew what I was getting into. My favorite questions, I would start off really innocuous and easy, and like, oh yeah, Avi, help me with this, and I also step in, oh yeah, listen, yeah, let's do it really quick. But then we have like a 30-minute or sometimes longer discussion. Hey, I love talking about Power BI. So we'll talk about a row content. We'll label this one transition in calculate. This is also a little bit more like kind of understanding measures step by step. So you saw my approach, and yeah, I just really like breaking things down. Awesome. Let's see. So guys, I'm if you asked the question earlier, I'm not able to keep up. Let's see who is here. Asperry is here. Tony says hello. I'm not really sure what language is that.
Avi, there.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Steve, did you see a good question there? Otherwise,
I do. I think I see an interesting question.
Great.
It's from Kimberly.
All right.
And she says, my biggest time sucker is updating the employee table with new employees after every upload.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if this is something that maybe you could, look in some sort of a transaction table, and then, because I have something similar to this where you can create a lookup table from a transactions table. And if it's in the transactions, it'll add the new records to the lookup table.
Hey, yeah, you want to drive this?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. But
yeah.
Essentially,
hey, you know what? Just take the data set you just showed us. Imagine, and from that sample data, just build a table of track codes. I mean, that'll demonstrate. You probably have the file open.
I had it open. Yes, I do.
Okay, let's do it that way.
Share the screen again.
Oh, this is exciting. I don't think this has ever happened before. So, Kimberly, you're in for a treat, and believe me,
I don't know.
You're in good hands.
Some treat. All right. Is it? Oh wait, I got lots of buttons to click on here.
All right. So show us the the data table, and let's just see it in Power Pivot for one. So folks, yeah.
Well,
By the way, while Steve brings that up, there is Power BI inside Excel. I don't know if anybody told you, but yeah, it's the same technology. The query editor, the DAX measures, all of that is the same. There's some very minor differences, but usually you don't care about that. So yeah, I often don't use those terms, Power Query, Power Pivot. It's just kind of Power BI for me. So even though you're not seeing like Power BI desktop, it's the same stuff. So Steve,
well,
if you will, bring up the data model for us.
okay. Well, let's see here. So here's the model.
And show us the data view of the sample data table.
Okay.
Perfect. So Kimberly, imagine this is your employee data coming in every time. And instead of track code, so Steve, for those who don't know yet, works at a company which owns racetracks for horse racing. I always find that exciting. So instead of track code, you can imagine employee code, and you can even imagine other attributes here, like employee name and all that sort of stuff. The principle is going to be the same. So Steve, so imagine you're getting this table, and now you wanted to build a lookup table of your tracks, or track codes in this case. How would you do that?
Right. Okay. Well, I would go into the I'd go into the query editor is where I'd go.
Exactly. And that's a great start always, people, because query editor is your kitchen, right? That's where you do all of your clean shape transform. It's got all the kitchen utensils, and most importantly, it's got the trash can. Believe me, you need the trash can, because you're going to do stuff and you're like, oh, now I don't need it, throw it away. Yeah, query editor is the only place where you have the trash can and all the tools. So let's head over there.
Right. So if I edit the what I'm calling the sample data, transaction table, sales table, whatever you'd want to call it.
All right.
You're going to see it's just kind of so in here you've got basically essentially what you want is all the unique values of track code in its own table.
Yeah, we want to create a lookup table of track codes. Or yeah.
Yeah. So you could well, I guess probably what I would have done is I would say reference this.
Yeah, you can.
Query.
Yeah, you can do that in the query editor as well. If you expand the queries pane on the left.
Oh yeah. Okay, gotcha.
You can just right click.
So then in here, I could rename that and call it, lookup.
Yep.
For lack of a better word. Then I could just remove other columns.
Perfect. So let's. So can you back up? Click on the source step again. So
Sure.
Kimberly, to generalize for you, in this case, Steve just had one column, but in your data set, you probably have a few. You would have like employee ID, employee name, So you would select all of them, and then you would say remove other columns, and that way. So click on the next step, Steve. You will just have the employee kind of specific columns. So now we have that, and now what do we do?
I would remove duplicates.
Nice.
And then I would load it to. Mine will come up. I typically create a connection, add it to the data model.
Exactly. Yeah. So of course, if you're in Power BI, you don't have to worry about this. But Excel, this is good. It's good to have these options.
And then go back and make sure that it's has a relationship to the.
Yep.
Beautiful. So ideally, the lookup table would have more than one field.
Yeah. So, the only step where Kimberly needs to make changes, where you select a track code and said remove other columns, she would select employee ID, name, whatever, and that's it, right? So that's the only minor change, and this is it. The only other gotcha that I've faced is that sometimes I come in here and try to create the relationship, and it says, oh, it has blanks. because if the original data, imagine it had blank track code somewhere, those end up as well.
Oh,
So the only
yeah.
step I've had to add sometimes is after I remove duplicates, I also say remove blank rows. So actually, do you mind, Steve, just
Yeah.
showing that step? I mean, I know we wouldn't like
Sure.
actually see a change,
Sure.
but
So you could you would. I mean, you could do things like, just to be on the safe side, you kind of take a look at what you got there.
yeah.
Even, if you don't see nulls or anything in there, but you can always do something like, well,
I think it showed up, yeah.
like remove
Yep.
blank
Perfect.
rows.
Yep. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
so this is terrific. Actually, I thought of another concept that I learned from my mentor, Greg Weber, who also taught me data modeling, and he talked about this concept of defensive programming, and this is exactly what he was talking about. So what he was saying was, Avi, just because there are no blanks right now doesn't mean there are not going to be any blanks in the future ever. So by doing this step, even when there are no blanks right now, you protect yourself against a scenario where the source data changes. So of course, as a Power BI modeler, I often don't have control over the source data. I don't really know how the systems are designed or the way they're going to be changed in the future. So it's possible that blank rows come in. But so if I didn't do this step and the blank rows crept in, what would happen, Steve? So if I hadn't done this step and and 5 years later, this model is being used. It's insanely popular. Everybody loves it. And then in the source data, in that data set that you had, a blank row comes in. What would happen? How would we? What would happen?
So say that. So if in the source data a blank were to show up,
Blank track code, yeah, and we didn't have this step here. How would we find out about it?
well, I assume the relationship would break somehow.
Yeah, well, so
I
what
have to
happens
think
is
about that a little bit.
the refresh breaks. So the refresh wouldn't let you refresh the table. I think that I'm pretty sure that's what happens, because it'll say that hey, the data is kind of inconsistent. It complains about the data. It said I can't do it. So it keeps the relationship, which I think is the right behavior.
You know what?
So yeah, you want to try it? Okay, let's do it. So yeah, remove that blank row step. Remove that, the step that we added. Yeah.
Well, we'll yeah. Well, let's.
All right. Whew.
Well, now it's a null.
Okay.
This way it came in.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
so-
that. Yeah, null here is equivalent to kind of the blank in DAX in the model side.
All right,
So let's try it. I think it'll complain right now. And my theory is that if you look at the data model, it couldn't refresh.
Oh,
Yeah,
it did. It complained.
Yep. Yeah. So and again, if you read through, which I rarely do, but if you read, I mean, this one is one of those. Yeah, it contains blank values not allowed. And yeah, so if you hit OK and go to your data model, my guess would be that this new row wouldn't be there. So it doesn't load it and leaves it in a broken state. It actually doesn't load it at all, which I think is the right behavior. So yeah, it just stops the refresh right there. So that's what would happen if you didn't do this step. So again, we're talking about defensive programming. If you didn't do the step and then later something was introduced, the way you're going to come to know is that the refresh would break. And maybe there's some monitoring, somebody's checking those emails, but guys, admit it, we set up the daily monitoring, but we start ignoring those emails because it worked for 300 and whatever. It's been working for the past 6 months. So that's going to be ignored. And your users may not find right away. Maybe a few days later, a week later, they'll say, hey, the data is old. And then you're going to scratch your head like, what's happening? So anyway, not that you can't figure it out, but yeah, it's kind of fun to think about these in advance.
Well, yeah, I've seen a lot of that where with file extensions and converting things to lowercase and just a lot of things that
absolutely,
if you don't have control over what goes into your, say, the folder,
yeah,
then you need to be a little more careful.
Yeah. So, gosh, I had other thoughts. So of course, I have learned by teaching my students. It's been amazing, and of course, the first class that we had 2 years ago, the beta class for a Learn Power BI course. Keith Nail, such a wise man. He had seen it all. So because he shared the quote with me, like, Avi, to teach is to learn twice. So I knew that data modeling was important, and I knew some of the concepts, and I have taught a lot of them in my course. And on the YouTube channel as well. Where is this stuff? But only by working with my students. So there's data modeling stuff right here on my channel and inside my course. Only by working with my students, I realized that modeling is, that's what I figured out so far, is two key things. One is I call crossroads. You're going to come to a lot of crossroads and you're going to make decisions. Simple, like do you use a calculated column or measure? That one is often easy, all right? So hint, it's measured most of the time. So crossroads, but you're going to come to a lot of crossroads, like, oh, I can do it this way or that way, this way or that way. And I love, so I talked about calculated column and measures is usually the answer, but I love the scenarios when that is not the answer, when calculated column is the answer. I often say that you do your cleanup in the kitchen, in the query editor, but not always. And I love those scenarios where like, you know, I mean, I know it's cleanup, but this is why you wouldn't do it in the query editor. You would do it in DAX or someplace else. But yeah, you're gonna have all of these crossroads. Some big, some really big. Like big ones would be, hey, so I was working in Microsoft, and we had in our group we had 4 lines of business, and a big decision point was, this was huge. Do we create 4 separate models for those 4 lines of businesses, or do we create one model with all of their data? That's a big decision point. It's hard to kind of change that later, you know. So you could come to these crossroads decision points, big and small. So watch out for that. And the other part, it came later to me. I understood this crossroads very quickly once I started working with my students and building models. The other one was your model is also built on a set of assumptions. And yeah, so again, I mean, assumption, you may understand them, like it may be explicit where you say that, yep, I'm going to assume that the name is in the format last name, comma, first name, or last name, comma, space, first name, something like that, right? So that may be explicit. You might even say it somewhere in the documentation, in your steps or something like that. Or it may be implicit where you're not thinking about it. Like you may not think about the blank rows, but that assumption is there in the model. The model is assuming there are no blank rows. And when there are blank rows that are introduced, it's going to stop working. Short story, I was talking to another gentleman in our Learn Power BI program, and he said, Avi, my models keep breaking. And we had this conversation, and I realized that what was happening was the assumptions kept changing. And I said, well, so it's not your fault. I wouldn't see it that way, that you're building faulty models. Your assumptions keep changing. So maybe that's to do with the business, or maybe we can get smarter about the way we are zooming, and of course, defensive programs. So anyway, all right. So a bit of a story there. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, well, I do want to share this on over here. So yeah. So let's. I would say, are we into an hour? Yeah, we're definitely in an hour. Let's do this. How about we open up the phone line? Let me see. Steve? Did you see any other good questions on there?
Let me
okay, otherwise
kind
folks, what we're going to do is okay, let's open up the phone lines, shall we? So folks, I will say that if you go to talkpowerbi.com, you can sign up for the Insiders Club, and so let's make a it's kind of an honor system here. I'll stick the link here because it's easiest for people to follow, but I'll request that you be a member of the Insiders Club over the comment. So okay, so that one is the link to join. Hey, Kirill is here. You have to examine the data and understand why the blanks are occurring. Yeah, that's a good point, Kirill. So yeah, in fact, that is, yeah. So I'll back up a bit and I'll say, let's see if I have. So that looking at blanks and stuff should happen at like the initial step where you start exploring the data. And I'm sure Kirill does it that way too. And of course now the Power BI query editor has these amazing data profiling tools, and there's more coming around data profiling, which just give you a really quick snapshot of what's going on with the data. So that's a good point. So talk about BI thing join, and I'll stick the I'll first of all I gotta activate the talk Power BI line. Talk. There we go. So hey, if you do join, you get access to our notes, any files that we create. Also, all the history is there, and if you're binge watching through old Talk Power BI sessions, then you're gonna have the notes, you're gonna have the files that go with there, and you can have the call-in link. So let's get that going. Ooh, so yeah, so Kirill has a question about summarize, and I'll freely admit that, man, I use summarize not that much, very rare. Yeah, so I'm not really sure. Maybe I don't know. I'm not even sure when the summarize function was introduced. To me, it feels like summarize came later. Like I started writing DAX measure in 2009. Maybe summarize was there and I just didn't know about it. It's possible. Or maybe it was introduced later, but I kind of got to find my way around without summarize, and then I learned about summarize. So the scenario that I've used summarize, I'll admit, is usually when I'm trying to optimize a measure, and that is a really fun exercise. Kirill, you may have gone through that too. So folks, often when I'm doing that, actually, you know what? Let me just write that down just so I have it in my notes. Let me actually clean up some of my notes. So Kimberly was asking about how to create lookup table from data table, and then right now, what is the time? 10, kind of 20, 21. Kirill, hopefully is asking about advantage of using summarize. Okay, cool. So I usually look at summarize when
Hey, Avi,
yeah.
do you think if is her question based on what's on the screen now, why summarize in that instance?
It's possible, yeah.
Because
I'm gonna
I
go with
can
that.
I can tell you why that is.
Well, they both work, right?
Right, but this was when I couldn't use values to get all the distinct values of two unique columns. You know, I wanted that data had multiple occurrences for each day. Like for example, you've got aqueduct on 1-1, aqueduct on 1-2, AQU on 1-1. And if I use just distinct count of track code, it's just going to give me one value there. I needed 1-1 AQU and 1-2 AQU to be different. And I Googled it, and that's like Summarize said it would do it. So that's the only reason for Summarize.
Yeah, but those are like two different paths to the same, right? So this one takes where is the other one? So this one, so we wrote the SumX version, and then we wrote at the end we had the Summarize version. So yeah. So
well, I didn't.
Which one is? Yeah.
I didn't know the SumX version. That was my problem.
Yeah, that's true. But let's say now we do know, is one better than the other? I would say I would evaluate it on two aspects. So one, I would say, and one I would say is, for me, the classic principle, simplicity. And again, what's simple for me may not be simple for you. All right, so yeah, summarize is usually not simple for me. It makes me think harder, just because it came later in my learning process, right? But of course, I've seen people around who are like, yep, summarize that. That's they reach for that, right? I mean, the way I reach for like X functions or something, right? So for me, I look for simplicity, like what's simple for me, and also in simplicity, like what's simple for me, and then the bigger one perhaps is like I look for like step by step. I like the Lego block example of being able to build things in Lego block and understand it that way. So in in a way, for me, again, I don't know if it's going to be for everybody else, but for me, I'm able to, in my head, break the X function down kind of step by step. Like I say, hey, I've already figured out count, distinct count. I know exactly what that is. So, and I can see that visually. All I need to do is tell Power BI to go get that number row by row, right? So I feel like I can kind of see it, right? But when we were talking about summarize, I had to think about it differently. For me, and I remember we did this, it wasn't in page 2? Nope. That when we were talking about it last week, what I had done was I had copied this table and I had removed the race, I think. And I had said to Steve that, oh, I think summarize is doing this. It's creating where is that stuff? Yeah, so I said summarize, it's creating this table. And I could kind of visually see that, so that's not that bad. But sometimes summarize is a little tricky for me because you cannot easily see the results of that. The only way I usually do that is I would go to DAX Studio and I would write that out, right? So let's see which one let's connect to. Let's connect to the Steve's model that we have. And I would write that thing down. Let's go back to DAX Studio. You have to say evaluate, and let's try it. Cool. So, yeah, I mean, so I would get it and I can see it. So when I have to do it, if I have to like really see it, like I want to see exactly what's being returned by summarize, I would do it in DAX Studio. I guess you can do it in using a DAX table as well, but this feels more lightweight. I don't like create a table which I have to remember to delete. The trick here, or even if you're doing like a DAX table in here where you define like a new table, is that it's still challenging to apply different filter contexts when you're testing it. Like if I want to now test this for, and again, imagine a more complicated model and I want to filter this down, the result of the summarize to I don't know, like a single month, and then you can definitely apply filters on it, but it's just I'm not as quick around these things. So again, I mean that's kind of my set of reasons. So right. So the other one is performance, and for me, mostly that's when I've looked at summarize because yeah, there are scenarios where summarize can make things really fast. Not all of them, frankly. In this scenario, I don't know which one would be faster. So we had talked about it last time that it'll be an interesting experiment to blow this data set up to like 1 million or I don't know, even hundreds of millions of rows and see which one performs better. My bet is in this one on the X function. We'll see. And of course, there's a whole DAX Studio where you can do kind of a query plan and look at things like that to see the performance. Like, oh, what is the summarize doing? Oh, it's and you look at the query plan, kind of like a SQL query plan, and it'll tell you step by step, and you look at which step is taking too long, and then if I change that there, something like that. So when I do performance, which is rare, I'll admit, but when I've done it, it is a lot of fun. It's really, you dive into the guts of DAX, and you really have to sometimes think very creatively. And of course, the SQL BI folks, they often dive into that stuff, and man, you look at some of this stuff, and it's like it's creative. It's definitely, I think, I don't know what it is. It almost feels like art, but it's definitely kind of, some of this stuff is like you have to think out of the box. Like, oh, if I did it this way, if I just looked at the same problem this way, and it just performs so much better because DAX just runs through it differently. So that's my take kind of on summarize. Hopefully that helped others as well. Let's see what's happening with our Talk Power BI thing. Let me try that again. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say there's a question regarding, looks like time intelligence quarter to date.
All right, Harini. Good to see you here, man. We're speaking to Prashant. He's doing some amazing stuff with Power BI over in Netherlands. So Harini is asking, and Kirill had some comments. Let me read through some of that really quick. Oh, he's helping others. I love when that happens. Oh gosh, a dimension table to summarize from column. Yeah. So, okay. So I went off on a tangent. Hopefully, hopefully it helped others, because that was not Kirill's question. So let me quickly address Kirill's question. So he's asking about that. I never do it. I really think that the query editor is the kitchen of Power BI. If I would never do summarize, and I don't know. It's just for one of those. I like things kind of in their right buckets. I might have mentioned it in some of the video on Facebook. I like emptying the dishwasher because I love the feeling of just putting everything in its spot. And so for me, it kind of like the right spot for doing something like that is the query editor. So it's against my instincts. So that's just me. But there's also, I think, a valid reason for operating this way. Because when I first started out, then my kitchen was kind of all over, or I wasn't doing all the cooking in the kitchen, So I was doing a kind of helter-skelter. I wasn't very disciplined. So sometimes I was good in SQL, so I would do stuff in SQL. It just came naturally to me. I already knew it. But in my defense, there wasn't a query editor there, so I would do a lot of SQL stuff there. Sometimes I would do stuff in Excel, and sometimes I would do it in DAX. And then the query editor came along, and I started doing it here. But what that did was, since I was not cooking in one place, is that when stuff didn't work, and you know how users are, they come to you and say, this doesn't look right. and it's like, oh my God, seriously? Like, yeah, that number doesn't look right. And what is going on? So if I had this cooking in all these different places, I had to look up each one. I had to kind of pull that thread and oh, what's going on? So I now don't do that. So my default is just query editor. That's where it's at. So when I'm looking at a problem, I look at it, hey, first, so again, it's like a whodunit murder mystery. So first look, hey, is this happening on the model side, like on the DAX side, or is it like in the data that's coming into the model? If I figure out that, it's in the data that's coming into the model, I know just to go to the kitchen and just focus there. And it's I do it that way. Now, there are exceptions. There's certainly exceptions. And of course, that's a crossroads that I talked about. And I love delving into those and so forth. So I'm not saying that exceptions don't occur. But as long as you understand when you break the rule, and oh, okay, cool, I'm going to do some cooking in somewhere else, then you know why you're doing it. Right? So create your model by not by chance, but by intention. The same way we should create our lives, by intention. Anyway, we talked about it at the beginning of the call. All right, cool. So, all right, let's take Harini's question. Harini, good to have you on. And I've been trying to activate the phone line. I can't tell if it's active or not. Let me just do that really quick so we have that going. And I don't know. Let's see. There we go. The phone line is up, my friends. So great. We'll keep that up and running. And so if you're in Talk Power BI, go ahead and join in. I'll post the link in a quick second. So let's go to the next one. And this one is 1034, 27. All right, let's see, view, navigation pane, okay. How to summarize quarter to date, year to date, and year-end headcount without adding the headcount of all months in that period. How to summarize, I'm going to read it again. How to summarize quarter to date, year to date, and year-end headcounts without adding the headcount all months in that period. Harini, that is a good one. I would love to be able to talk to you about that. Let's see if you can call in. So I hope you're a member of our Talk Power BI club, Insiders Club. And if you're not, you can join at talkpowerbi.com. But I'll put the link. Did that work? Oh, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'll put the link to join right here. And Harini, if you're still on the call, then I would love to have you join. Others, if you have questions, if you want to talk, if there's something a little more complicated, which will be easier in discussion rather than just a comment on YouTube, then you can dial in as well. But if Harini joins, we'll prioritize her since Steve, our moderator, picked her, and that is a good question. All right, so while we're waiting, I'll go out, pull out some of her financial dashboards which have this concept, and I realize she's asking about headcount, and that's cool. Finance headcount, it's pretty close. And when we built finance dashboards, they were always interested in showing kind of headcount numbers as well. And yeah, the same concepts would apply. Hey, Lauren. Oh, wait, she's not on audio yet. All right, cool. So let's do this. Let's bring up the financial dashboard. And let me pull that up while we're waiting for Harini. Where is it? Okay. Ooh, interesting. All right, cool. What was I saying? So the two things that I wanted to show was that for those who are inside the course, the financial dashboard is covered in great detail in our pro level mini courses. And yeah, I remember talking to Anthony about it too, and I know he's been working on this stuff. So that's where, if you're in the course, you can find that. Now, some of those videos are also on my YouTube channel, so I'll also show that one to you. So in here, the financial reports and statements, that's you have the downloads and all the videos. Some of those videos, or some of that content, is also covered here. Actually, I realize I need to. This guy needs to have one more video. I'll add that. I'll multitask and add that. Come on. All right, let's see. Hold on, guys. So just give me 1 second. I wanna be able to point you guys to the financial dashboard video. Interesting. Well, I'll do that later. For now, just if you search for finance dashboards Power BI, both of these are relevant. So this one is the one that I did with the Microsoft team. This one is on my channel, so you can look at that. Great. So and of course inside my class you do that. So we have the AdventureWorks finance model up, and it does have the quarter to date, year to date. Now I'm not really sure what you meant, so let's see if we have Harini on the phone. No, we don't. So Harini, yeah, it's going to be hard because I would have to make a lot of assumptions otherwise if I'm not able to talk to you. So let's see. Oh, yeah, just click on that link that I sent, the zoom.us. Sorry, I wasn't watching the chat. Click. Come on. Weird. Uh-oh. Hopefully our live feed is working. My internet kind of froze. Yeah, so Harini, click on the zoom.us link. That's the one above. Well, let's go back here and let me see if I can kind of go with some assumptions. So she wants to. Oh, we do have a caller. Let's see. Oh, it's Lauren. Hey, Lauren. Do we have you on the line? Oh, okay. Go. Dang it. All right. So, yeah. All right, Harini. So see if you can join the call-in line. I know Lauren joined and then dropped off, so we know it's working. So yeah, click on that zoom.us link. So how to summarize quarter-date, year-to-date, and year-end headcount without adding the headcount of all months in that period? I would say that I don't quite get it. I mean, I don't understand this part. I understand the goal. It's like, hey, how can we show quarter to date, year to date? Now, of course, the year end part doesn't make sense because if you're showing year to date, then you are in the middle of the year. Maybe, oh, so again, so I'll go with the assumption. When you say year end, you're talking about a forecast, right? So, so we'll show quarter to date, year to date, and then we'll have an year end forecast that, hey, this is how, let's say we're in September right now. So, oh shoot, July, August, let's say we're in November right now. So November, the quarter to date is going to be, yeah, the end of November. Yeah, so let's go with this. You want to show the quarter to date number, you want to show year to date number, and you want to show an year end forecast. Who do we have? We have Rajinder. All right, Harini, looks like you're having some trouble joining. So I'll say go watch the finance dashboard videos that I have. They do show you how to show the quarter to date, year to date number. So we have the quarter to date, we have the year to date, and then we have the year end number right there. And this is showing dollars, but the concept is exactly the same if you're going to show like employee headcount. And we have done that. I mean, I don't have it on kind of YouTube, but when we built dashboards for finance team, they always wanted to combine that with the kind of the HR data as well, headcount data, because that was a big part of their budget and so forth, right? So they wanted to keep a close track on that. So yeah, the same concept applies. So I'll just point you to that. And let's go to the phone. So hey, Rajinder, can you hear me on the phone? Let's see if we can hear you. And if you had a question on Power BI or something else that you want to talk about. Harini, I see you on the list there. Ooh, exciting.
Hello.
Hello, Harini. Hey, am I saying your name right?
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, it took a while for me to figure out how to connect.
No worries. It's always a first time.
Yeah.
So, Harini, before we even dive into the question, tell me a bit about yourself.
I am based out of US and I'm a financial analyst.
All right.
And
great.
I'm new to Power BI, so I'm in the baby steps. I read through your book, using that as a reference, browsing through some of the stuff in the internet, and this is what I encounter, right? In my day-to-day work, I have headcount, and while it is easy for me to write a measure for QTD and year to date and for the full year view with regards to expenses, if I use the same measure and apply on the headcount, it doesn't work, because if it's a QTD, it adds up Jan, Feb, March together, and that's not what I want.
Got it. Hold on. So let me kind of write it down. So on count the kind of the amount side, the dollar side,
yeah,
you can write the QTD and year to date, and let's say even year end measures, and it works. Got it. But then on the head count side, you write the same measure.
yeah.
And then what happens? So let's
It
take
aggregates.
quarter to date. It okay, got it. Let's see if we can. All right. Hey, Steve, I'm gonna turn off screen sharing on GoToMeeting because I'm gonna try to do it on the Zoom call with Harini. Okay, cool. So let's bring up Excel. Where'd it go? Yeah, there it is. And I'm gonna share my screen with you.
Okay.
Screen 2. Okay. All right. So let's say the finance data is, let's say month amount, something like that. So we have January, we have February, we have March, and for this we have well, let's just do $100, $200, $175, something like that, right? So I can write basically some amount that will be my measure, and quarter to date will be calculate something like sales for dates QTD my calendar date.
That's right.
So that would be my two measures. But now we have HR data, and for that we have January, February, March, and you have headcount. Is that right?
That's right.
And let's say this is 50, this is 75, this is I don't know, 90, 95. Oops, no dollar signs. And you want, so for and of course we would have so you want like the quarter to date number, right?
That's right.
Got it. So what I would say is, instead of a sum, just define this as a max. Okay. Would that work?
It won't work all the time, right? Say for example, in Jan we had 95 and there was the people left.
Yeah, you're right. Of course. So we need the last month.
Yeah.
So quarter to date. But so if I may ask, that quarter to date, year to date, they're not going to be different, right? They're the same. You just want like the last month's number. That's it.
Quarter to date is
current head count. That's it, right?
The current head count. Yeah. But if I say quarter to, that's a current head count.
Got it. So I think you would leverage the amazing Ultimate Calendar for that. Have you gone through that series on?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So we have so let me just point out others to that really quick, and then we'll talk about how I think.
In Jan we had 95 and there was people left.
Yeah, you're right. Of course. Oh, she has a drive-by. Okay, folks. So I'll point all of you to the Ultimate Calendar table, which is again the good stuff, thanks to Mariana and her team, is right up top, and the Ultimate Calendar table, rightly so, is right next to the beginner's tutorial. So this is the main tutorial, and then Ultimate Calendar table. So and of course there's more inside my course on the calendar table. Calendar table is one of those things, a gift that keeps giving. Where is it? The Ultimate Calendar table. So the course has goes a little bit deeper into that. Okay. So let's see. I don't know if I have the Ultimate Calendar table here, but I'm kind of tempted. So basically, what you would do is you would say, let's say you define the headcount measure, and so that it works when you filtered on January, February, March of a specific year, right? So if you filter on a specific year, it works. Once we have that working, we can say that I want you to calculate that measure, but give it to me for the last month. So you can just say calendar per month offset. So in this calendar, the active month is going to be like January. So I always would say -1 because that's the closed month. That's the month that's been closed, and that should be it. So it'll just go, oh, okay, I know what you're telling me to do. I'm going to go to the calendar table, figure out which is like the last month, completed month, and I'm just going to filter to that and give you the head count for the last month, the month that just closed. What do you think?
Awesome.
Theoretically, does that sound like an approach that would work?
Yeah, this would definitely work. And I have one follow-up question on this.
Yeah.
Supposing I have to summarize by quarter, right? Q1, Q2, Q3, and full year.
Yeah.
And I have the expenses lined up.
Oh,
and I need a head count too for each quarter.
Oh,
How
absolutely.
does it?
Yep. So let's say, so here you have some kind of a table, and it'll say quarter, and let's say sales, and head count.
That's right.
And Q1, Q2, Q3, and maybe Q4. And sales would obviously work. We know about that. But how do we do the head count? And I already love what I'm going to say next because I think it's going to be really awesome. That's what I love about Power BI. So, Harini, do you think that this... Oh, actually, this wouldn't work. Dang it! Oh, it was so close. Okay, so yeah, this wouldn't work. Can you tell me why wouldn't it work? What would it give me if I
stuck? It would give me the last closed month's data, right? If I use that.
Or it would give me a blank because it would have two things coming into the filter context. It would have the Q4 coming in, and then it'll have the last closed month. So imagine if we were in December or something, right? So imagine like this cell, this one we're calculating. So the incoming filter context would be Q1, which will say January, February, March. And then you would add this one, current month offset, which will add that onto it. So it'll say, do I have any rows where the month is Q1 and current month offset is -1? That'll be an empty table. I kind of messed that up a little. Did that make sense? It'll kind of do an intersection of the two. Does that make sense? This and that.
So what would happen? Just let's take 2019 as an example, right? The January is still on, so what I will have there is probably the forecast. So what I would like to see here is, okay, what is the forecast I have for March for Q1?
June got it. Yeah. So I know this is not going to work. My theory is that sometimes it'll return a number, sometimes it will return a blank because the intersection of this is trying to do and what's coming in is going to return an empty set. But anyway, let's not go there. So clearly that wouldn't work. That's for sure. So we don't want that measure. So we're gonna do this. So we're gonna say calculate. Let's just do the same thing. Calculate head count, but we're gonna say, ooh man, this is I wonder if we can do this in a real model. But I think we got this. So calculate head count. Oh, you know what? Let's just do it in a real model. Let's just see. Let's just try it in our AdventureWorks model. Do I have it? Yes, I do. Yay. There it is. I really need to close some of the files that are open. Okay, anyway. So let's go in here, and what we're going to do is let's just build that table. So we have calendar. I'm going to add year to it, make that a slicer. oops, list, and let's just do quarter. I'm gonna make it a matrix, and now I wouldn't do it for a real dashboard. I like things simple, but here we would make it a little flashy.
Okay.
And here, let's see if we can, what is the style? I don't know what this does. Flashy rows. Oh, that's a little too much. I guess I don't like that. Okay, cool. Let's go with that. All right, so we'll keep this, and we'll keep one by month.
Okay.
Month, and we'll bring in sales, and we'll pretend sales is headcount for now.
Okay.
Oh shoot, what did I do? Yeah, there we go. Okay, for this one, I want to bring in month. Okay, and let's try to change this to default. Perfect. Interesting. Total, turn it off. Great. Okay, so if this was headcount, I mean, again, that's a similar scenario. We don't want, again, DAX is always right, but in this case, what the human is looking for is we're not looking for 2744. We're looking for 1010. Would you say that's right? Does that sound right?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. So if you can solve it for that, we can solve it for the headcount problem. No issues there. So let's do this really quick, and I'm gonna make a new table really quick to keep my new measure, just to keep it kind of separate.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what I did. I wanted to do. I didn't want to do that. I want to do this. Enter data. Underscore formulas load. Come on. Hey, maybe I'll close some of the other stuff. That's closed. This one we're working on. This one, close that. Steve's file we can close. And this as well. Okay, that should speed up things. All right, we're back here. Our table is there, and we're going to define a new measure. Come on. And we'll say sales, whatchamacallit? Sales, gosh. Last month, and we'll do it step by step. So I'm going to add the WIP thing, work in progress. So first thing that I'm going to do is just simply figure out what is the last month. So I'll say var last month, equals giving the max of calendar month num. Okay, let's change it to last month num. num, and I'll just return that. Return last month num. That's it. So we'll do that, and let's just see what it gives us. So I'm going to add this here, and it's working right. So Q1 369. We do have Q4. It's just hidden. Great. So we're getting the right number. So now let's just go back to that, and oops. Ooh, nice and big. Okay, return. So now we don't want that. What we want is maybe another variable, and I say sales last month, and we'll say I want you to calculate sales. So in your case, you'll just say headcount for where calendar month num equals last month num. I'll admit I'm not 100% sure this would work, but let's just try it. Sales last month. I mean, logically it does, but let's see. So we got that, and ooh, did it work?
It did.
Looks like it did. Yeah, that's it. Wow, we're good. We're done.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is awesome.
Yeah, so let's just spot check. Yep, so 1010 is picking up from March.
Yeah.
April, May, June is picking up 1731, and yeah, the other months right as well. And of course, total. I mean, this shouldn't be a mystery. There's no filter here, so it does this. Now, of course, so I'm looking at 2016. If I look at 2015, it always shows me like the December one. What do you think is going to happen when I clear this filter for these rows and for the grand total? Ooh, quiz time. You didn't know this was coming, would you?
No.
All right. So I'm going to clear the filter, and what would you say is going to happen for let's just focus on two rows. Let's just focus on this one for now. So right now, my filter context is 2015 Q1, and I'm saying show me the last month. If I clear the filter, what would happen to this row? Okay, so if we look at the calendar table, well, if we clear the filter, then we have the whole calendar table, and the calendar table goes to 2018. So now for this cell, so I'm gonna channel a little bit of the DAX stuff that we have over here. This one. So by the way, the rule that I created is I can, because if I can figure it out, anybody can. But the step one in figuring out DAX is the incoming filter context. So let's see. So here, right now, what is a filter context? So filter context usually comes from the rows, columns, and then slicers or other filters you add in the filter panes. It's really simple. And often when I'm debugging a chart, I always change it to a table, because table or a matrix, because that's the only way I can think. Otherwise, it's kind of hard, right? So for this cell, and again, when you're debugging, only focus on one cell. What is a filter context? Let's write it. So the filter context is coming from the quarter, so it's going to say calendar quarter equals Q1. That's one, and the other one is coming from slicer, calendar year equals 2015. And within that, our measure goes through this, and it finds, well, 3 months in there, and it does, let's say, like the max month num. Now, what would happen when I clear it? Well, then it would still have calendar quarter context equals Q1, but it wouldn't have the year. So now it looks at the table, and the table it's looking at actually has multiple years, quarter one from multiple years. So quarter one from 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then it's going to say which is the max month num. It will still filter down to 3, because the month num is always just 1, 2, 3. But then we have, I feel it's going to give us a sum of all March across all years. All years, yeah. But So we're going to see a number there, but let's think about the last one, the total. There's no filter context. There's no quarter at all. So, oh, I guess it's going to give us December for all years. Okay, cool. Let's just try it. Whew. Initially, I had thought, before I had done that kind of thought exercise, I thought that this would be blank, but let's see. Okay, cool. So, and we can test it. So this is cool. Yes, in some of the other dates, quarter to date, year to date, sometimes the grand total becomes blank because if you have future years in the calendar, it goes to a future date and it tries to figure that out. Anyway, all right, so I think you're good to go. I'll save this file. I mean, you saw the measure anyway, and if you just go to talkpowerbi.com, if you do care about the measure or the file, then you can just go to talkpowerbi.com, and that would give you access to both the notes and the file as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely, great question. Love that. Thank you, Harini.
Have a great afternoon.
All right, take care. So, folks, let's save this, put it away, and what is the time? It's just 11. Night is still young, right? we can do this. No, I'm yeah. I don't know what I'm rambling about. Talk Power BI 2019, and today is 0125, and we had Harini ask about headcount metrics. Latest month, current month, something like that. All right, so we got that. Looking good here. I feel like I'm forgetting something. All right, I'm gonna take a quick peek at the chat window, but then I think we have some callers. So we'll talk with them. All right, Steve says goodbye. Man, that's okay. Yeah. So, gosh, Geert. I'm trying to say a name right. I looked it up. Anyway, hey, Geert. Welcome to the family. Thank you so much for becoming a member of the Learn Power BI gang. No, I wouldn't say that. Learn Power BI family. So Geert just joined the course, and yeah, good to see you here as well. And oh yeah, you know, so the funniest thing is I'll share a funny story. I wouldn't name the guy. He is awesome. He's really amazing. He's one of the fellow MVPs, and he shared this and he made me laugh. And he said, Avi, so he's very active on forums and stuff. So he said when he goes to forums and he's stumped by a question, and he's like, dude, what is that? I don't know. And you know, he's so savvy, so it's a really high bar for him. But yeah, it stumps him, and he says, I sometimes research it for a day or two. But then I love this part. He said, but then I just go into the forum and I just respond kind of nonchalantly. I'm like, hey, oh yeah, you're trying to solve this? Oh, here you go. Here's the solution. And that really made me crack up. And so yeah, so you know, sometimes you see these kind of you know, and these are really smart people, but you don't see how the sausage is made, you know. so yeah, my friend. I mean, yeah, I get stumped all the time. I work through the same stuff, and you've seen me. What I've learned is to really break things in like small steps, and the whole I can rule. If you go through that, it just breaks the whole thing into like really simple steps, and that's the way I move forward. But yeah, I get stuck and fall flat on my face and all the time. You've seen me if you've watched me on Talk Power BI. A lot of times I give up, and of course when I give up in Talk Power BI, as soon as I get off the call, I work. That's the only thing that I'm working on. It's kind of that itch you have to scratch, and I solve it, and then I post it again or something like that. So cool, absolutely. Geert. Okay, name sounds good, awesome. So Geert, as a student, you can also kind of dial in on the phone. And you would get those notices, and yeah, so either way, whatever works best for you, you can join on the phone or hang out on YouTube. That works. So I didn't see a new question on there, so let's go to, do we have we do have Rajendra. I do have you on the call, and you are on mute right now, which is cool. if you would like to talk to me and maybe ask a question, I don't know, and of course when you call in, you can share your screen and stuff as well. Then let me know. Otherwise, yeah. So folks, gosh, this is one of those moments like, should I hang up? I don't want to hang up. I love hanging out with you guys. But yeah, if you don't have any questions, it's an awkward silence, or I go into story mode, and I don't know if you want me to do that, right? So if you don't want me to go into story mode, then talk about that. You know what? Let's just do. We don't give up. Awesome, love that. So I will go into story mode a little bit now. Of course, for those of you who have been on this journey with me, I did like 3 brave things at the beginning of this year. I've forgotten 2 of them, but this was big, which was I overcame my own kind of fear and judgment to step up and offer this program, which I had this concept for a long time, and I'll stick the link in here as well. And the idea for this was basically born when I looked at my students, and I'm like, hey, I'm giving them the technical knowledge, the know-how, but I saw that while some students took off like a rocket ship and achieved this mega success, for some of the other ones, the lives didn't really change. And I think that's like a data jockey syndrome, if you will, right? So I know I lived half of my life, more than half of my professional life, kind of stuck in the data dungeon. I was just kind of cranking out reports. If you have been doing that, it's possible to go from Excel to Power BI and still be doing that for the rest of your life. Now, I'm not saying there's anything bad with that. If you choose to do that, that's okay. And this is what I hinted on earlier, was like, when you create your Power BI models, they shouldn't be created by accident, right? It should be created with intent. And the same thing is true with our lives. I mean, I know I was guilty of that. I mean, my life was just kind of this accident, happenstance. This happened, that happened, and then something happened. It wasn't by design. Only now have I been able to say that, no, this is what I want to create for myself, for my students, and the community that I want to create, the interactions that I want to create. So yeah, I mean, I think you need to be intentional, right? But yeah, so you can be in that data dungeon and be doing that forever. Now, if you want that, that's great. If you want to make a bigger impact, and of course, with that comes bigger success, right? And impact is simple. You impact more people, you impact more lives, or you solve bigger problems. Either way, if you want to have that oversized impact, and again, impact and success is kind of hand in hand. So that's what I wanted to see my students do, because my goal, if you've heard, is to reach 1 million people, and I'm going to cheat my way to that. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to impact 1,000 people who are going to each impact 1,000 more. So I want to groom those big size leaders, right? I mean, and again, leadership has nothing to do with title. Doesn't matter. I mean, we have folks in our class who are like a call center analyst, and they're being called to headquarters and say, hey, dude, can you show me how to do this Power BI? Can you tell us more about this Power BI thing? So they're leading that revolution within the organization. So it doesn't matter where you are. It's about how you act. So I want to see that with my students, and so that's what this program is about. Now, this program, I'm not going to teach any Power BI. There's going to be 0 Power BI in there, because that's already covered in my course and our advanced pro level program. What I'm going to do is focus on everything beyond that, which kind of helps you success. So as part of that application process, there is. I've been talking to people on this breakthrough call where we get on the phone and I basically ask them, I want to understand them as a person, because I'm looking for kind of the right fit. And I ask them about their dreams and passions and goals, and it's been an unbelievable experience. For one, it made me feel foolish. That why did I kind of hold myself back from doing this? Because this is like sheer joy. The connecting with people, bringing people together, forming this community, that's always been my vision. And I get to do this in a very deep way with this amazing set of people. So that's been really amazing. So yeah, that's starting February, and of course, the whole hard work myth kind of came from that too, as well. So in a way, just taking the step allowed me to do other things which I wouldn't have had the courage of, or wouldn't have even thought of. And of course, one of those is our big real Power BI experiment. So real Power BI, for those of you who have participated in that, it's a program that I run with my students, and the idea is simple. So there's some kind of clips, trailers, if you will, on YouTube, but it's run inside our student community. And the idea is simple. We have a real business come in with a real project, and we work on that project in a class setting. But we're going to change this in a big way. We're not going to... Earlier, it feels silly now, we would pick one project, and I would kind of oversee that really closely. But now, especially with this 6 Figures program, but we'll involve other students as well. What we're going to do is we're going to bring in these projects, and then I'm just going to match each student with the project, and that way they get to that that can kind of help launch their career. That can be kind of the first consulting engagement, and that's always the best way to learn, just by doing it. And of course, they do it with some guardrails around. They would have kind of oversight, help from me, from the community, all of that. And one idea, and this was suggested by one of the folks I was talking to in this program, and they said that, Avi, I don't need anybody else's project. I already have a project. I would just like to be able to run that in this structure, with the guidance and support. And I'm like, great, let's do that as well. Let's bring your own project, right, to real Power BI. So again, a lot of ideas, but that happened only because I kind of stepped up and said, yeah, I want to help people in a bigger way. So it's so odd, right? That sometimes I think about, like, who's helping whom? Am I helping these people? I mean, I know by doing so, I remember my first call that I had with the first person who joined. I can't remember a time when I had felt more energized, more alive, more in kind of in sync with what I felt was like my mission and passion. And I only got that from these people. They are giving that to me. So yeah, I'm not really sure who's helping whom here. I mean, I know that by their participation, they're allowing me to really live. All right, cool. So hey, I warned you. if you don't ask me Power BI questions, I go into story mode. So yeah, just I want to share that really quick. Let's see if we have any callers. We don't, and I didn't see. Did I see any new questions? I didn't. Oh man, it's always a hard right now. All right, hey, no worries. We'll catch you next time, as always, on the next Friday's Talk Power BI. For those who just joined the 6 Figures Power BI Professional Program, we're going to kick it off in February, and I can't wait for all of you to meet each other. It's an amazing set of folks. It's a very diverse set of folks. I will say, though, that we're still waiting for our first female member to join. Now, that's some topic which I'm a little sensitive about, because I see that out in the industry, and I don't think really that there's equal opportunity kind of for women, and I feel slightly ashamed. I feel like I'm sure we all have our biases and prejudices, and looking back, it's possible. It's true that I may have contributed to that as well, about creating that environment. Now, of course, I have a son and a daughter, so I know that that's not the future that I want. And so that's we'll see. We did have some calls with these amazing women who and I talked to them, and they had such amazing life stories. And when they talked about their goals, it was really touching. But they haven't officially joined yet. So I don't know. Hopefully that'll happen. But yeah, because that will like really complete us. I mean, believe me, the members that are there, there's such diverse background. But I think that is going to be your strength. Now, of course, when I talked to these people, I told them that this program is not going to be about me. This is going to be about this group. We're going to get together in a raft, and we're going to pull for each other. We're going to have each other's back. We're going to pull together. So there's certainly diversity as their strength. I mean, if you look at a football team, if all you had were 11 quarterbacks, that would be a horrible team, right? So, you need everybody kind of playing their role, and diversity becomes our strength. So in that way, I'm super excited about this group. February, we officially kick it off. The real Power BI project will probably run in March. And I know it's going to be kind of a rollicking time.